ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste, my dear friends. Today I am discussing a very important topic for those who are spiritually inclined and they want to pursue their spiritual sadhanas to high level. Dear friends, remember, as in my many videos I have told that our soul, our Atma is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Remember, our Atma knows everything about the divine forces, divine power, and divine knowledge. Only thing we are not able to reveal these forces due to the veiling of the Atma by our mind, by our buddhi, by our chitta, by maya, by ego, by vasanas. So, dear friends, when you hear something, you listen something, sit down and see the various aspects what you have heard. Just think deeply what are the positive, negative effects. So, this type of deep thinking is known as contemplation. What you have heard, if it is based on facts and conviction and is truth and told by realized sages, then when you sit for meditation and start thinking deeply, you will find that the facts what you have heard will be strengthened further because your Atma is already aware of those facts and it will add power to the information. So, contemplation is the most important tool to know the truth. So, our sages, they have given maximum importance to contemplation. After attending the satsang, after hearing the discourses, you have to analyze the various aspects of the discourse and you have to think deeply. The truth will be further strengthened by the synchronization of the truth with the knowledge already your Atma is aware. Remember this very important point. So, this is a sort of amplification of the truth, amplification of the facts. Now I come to the topic. Maharshi Ramana, he was emphasizing on Contemplation. So I start with a talk of Maharshi, the talk number 21. Mr. Alappa Chettiar, a member of the Legislative Council of Madras Presidency and an influential Hindu, asked, why is it said that the knowledge born of hearing is not firm, whereas that born of contemplation is firm? See, first you have to hear, then you have to think deeply whatever you have heard. That is the actual meaning of contemplation. Maharshi. On the other hand, it is said that hearsay knowledge, proksa, is not firm, whereas that born of one's own realization, aproxa, is firm. This Maharshi had approved already what I told you, because whatever whatever you think deeply in meditation, because already your Atma is omniscient. Remember this fact? So, that is aproxa, that is the direct knowledge. Where from? That is the direct knowledge you are having from your Atma. That is aproxa, that is direct knowledge. It is also said that hearing helps the intellectual understanding of the truth, that meditation makes the understanding clear, and finally, that completion brings about realization of the truth. My dear friends, first you have to hear from external source, and if it is a fact and a truth, then it will be further strengthened by the knowledge already our Atma is having. So, truth told by the enlightened person and deeply thought by the sadhak, your Atma will approve this, and both added together due to synchronization, it will be strengthened and it becomes your useful knowledge. That is the meaning of a contemplation. First, you have to hear, then you have to think over it, and if whatever you have heard it is a truth, it is a fact, that will be approved by the Atma. So simple. These terms are very, very, they have a very subtle meaning. Uh, People they use contemplation, but try to understand the actual meaning. How, what is the meaning? Contemplation is preceded by hearing. First, you have to hear from a realized soul. Then, you have to confirm it by the Atma, because your Atma is already knowledgeable. Knowledgeable. Spiritual knowledge, divine knowledge is there with our Atma. But due to ignorance, not knowing anything, we are in a darkness. We are living in darkness. Otherwise, our Atma is already full of knowledge. Vedas. What is Vedas? Our sages in ancient times, they used to sit in meditation, they used to contemplate, and then through intuition, the knowledge of Vedas was revealed by these sages. So, dear friends, you have this capacity, but we are living under the ignorance, under the direct darkness. So, contemplation, always hear something, sit in meditation, think over What is the, you analyze what you have heard, the facts, the truth will be further clarified by your Atma, and that will become a useful knowledge with you. Okay. Furthermore, they say also that all such knowledge is not firm, and that it is firm only when it is as clear and intimate as a gooseberry in the hollow of one's palm. See, in classes, people may say, Sir, I cannot remember. What is the meaning of I cannot remember means? A student who understands what is being taught, that becomes the memory. If a student he is not able to understand whatever is being taught by the teacher, he cannot remember. So remember, understanding is most important fact for memory. Once you could not understand what you will remember, and once you have understood it becomes your memory. There are those who affirm that hearing alone will suffice because a competent person who had already, perhaps in previous incarnations, qualified himself realizes and abides in peace as soon as he hears the truth told him only once, whereas the person not so qualified must pass through the stages prescribed above before falling into samadhi. Dear friends, Atma of everybody is same. The difference comes the astral body. That is your mind, ego, vasanas, and intellect. Here comes the difference. There is no difference in the Atma. Atma of everybody is already realized. It is pure, it is bliss, it is peace. Now, talk number 34. Sitting in Maharishi's presence brings peace of mind. I used to sit in Samadhi for 3 or 4 hours together. Then I felt my mind took a form and came out from within. By constant practice and meditation, it entered the heart and was merged into it. I conclude that the heart is the resting place of mind. The result is peace. When the mind is absorbed in the heart, the self is realized. This could be felt even at the stage of concentration dharana. See, mind is the part of self. When mind merges with the self, then there is only self, no mind. And what is the nature of self? Peace and bliss. Simple. I asked Maharishi about contemplation. He taught me as follows: when a man dies, the funeral pyre is prepared and the body is laid flat on the pyre. The pyre is lit, the skin is burnt, then the flesh, and then the bones until the whole body falls to ashes. What remains thereafter? The mind. The question arises, how many are there in this body? One or two? If two, why do people say I and not we? There is therefore only one. Once it is born, what is its nature, Savrupa? And acquiring thus, the mind also disappears. Then what remains over is seen to be I. The next question is, who am I, the self alone? This is contemplation. It is how I did it. By this process, attachment to the body, Devasana, is destroyed. The ego vanishes, self alone shines. One method of getting mind dissolution, manolaya, is association with great ones. The yoga adepts, yoga arudhas. They are perfect adepts in samadhi. Self realization has been easy, natural, and perpetual to them. Those moving with them closely and in sympathetic contact gradually absorb the samadhi habit from them. Now we talk about samadhi. It is a very good word. People talk, they write articles and books about samadhi. Arey, my dear friend, samadhi is what? Atma of every human being is pure, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. Is it clear? Now, difference comes due to the mind, intellect, ego, and vasanas. When vasanas are eradicated, mind is destroyed, ego is destroyed, buddhi is nothing but the modification of mind. When all these entities, which are in actual sense, they are not existent at all, but due to ignorance, we give so much importance to these, so we suffer, we remain in darkness. When mind is vanished, ego is vanishes, intellect and vasanas, all these entities they vanish. What left is Atma, and this state is Samadhi, dear friends. Otherwise, people they talk about yoga, so many things, and everywhere we commit mistake. Simple things are made so complex that we just enter the ocean of complexities, ocean of confusion. When mind subsides, ego subsides, intellect subsides, vasanas removed. What is left? Atma. Then this state of our being is the state of samadhi. This is super conscious. We are in the state of super consciousness. Super consciousness is reached when mind and ego and vasanas and intellect, all these entities are absent. Simple. Now, talk number 187. Devotee. I maintain that the physical body of the man sunk in samadhi as a result of unbroken contemplation of the self becomes motionless for that reason. It may be active or inactive. The mind fixed in such contemplation will not be affected by the body or the senses being restless. A disturbance of the mind is not always the forerunner of physical activity. Another man asserts that physical unrest certainly prevents nirvikalpa samadhi or unbroken contemplation. What is your opinion? You are the standing proof of my statement. Devotees asking these things. People they bring wonderful words, complex sentences. The simple thing is told in a very circular way. Carry on circling around and finally reach where you started from. That is the problem. Questions are framed in such a way that the listener will be completely confused. What is this contemplation? Some truth is told to you. Then you just sit in meditation and find out, analyze what is correct, what is false, and what is truth in this information. Whatever is true will be approved by your Atma. That's all simple thing. Now what Maharishi says, just listen. Maharishi, both of you are right. You refer to Sahaja Nirvikalpa and the other refers to Kevala Nirvikalpa. In the one case, the mind lies immersed in the light of the self Atma, whereas same lies in the darkness of ignorance in deep sleep. The subject discriminates one from the other. Samadhi, stirring up from samadhi and activity thereafter, unrest of the body, of the sight of vital force and of the mind. The cognizance of objects and activity are all obstructions for him. In Sahaja, however, the mind has resolved itself into the self, means mind has merged with the self and has been lost. Differences and obstructions mentioned above do not therefore exist here. The activities of such a being are like the feeding of a somnolent boy, perceptible to the onlooker but not to the subject. The driver sleeping on his moving cart is not aware of the motion of the cart because his mind is sunk in darkness. Similarly, the Sahaja Jnani remains unaware of his bodily activity because his mind is dead, having been resolved in the ecstasy of Chit Ananda self. See, mind is dead. Make it clear. The mind originates from Atma. When it goes back to Atma and merges with Atma, we say mind is dead. The mind has the tendency to move outward. It mixes with the worldly affairs. This time it is full of negative energy. When this mind is directed back to its source, that is Atma, this mind is purified. It merges with the Atma. So we say it is dead. In the real sense, that is merging of mind with Atma, we say it is dead. The two words contemplation and samadhi have been used loosely in the question. This is the problem. See, contemplation means whatever truth is heard and it is verified and approved by the Atma, that's all. It becomes your knowledge. This information becomes your knowledge. Truth approved by Atma. If some false information is given to you, that time it will be rejected by the Atma. So contemplation is a very, very wide and important term. Contemplation is a forced mental process, whereas samadhi lies beyond effort. Now, sleep, Kevala, and Seza comparison is made. Sleep, mind alive, Kevala, mind alive, Seza, mind dead. Here, mind dead means it is merged in Atma. Second point, sleep, sunk in oblivion, Kevala, sunk in light, Saja, resolved into the self. Resolved into the self means it is merged with the self. Now, Kevala, third point, like a bucket with a rope left lying in the water in a well, Saja, like a river discharged into the ocean and its identity lost. Fourth, to be drawn out by the other end of the rope, a river cannot be redirected from the ocean. Talk number 196. A visitor asked the three methods mentioned in Ramana Gita, chapter 2. Contemplation is a forced mental process where samadhi lies beyond effort. Sleep, first point, mind alive, Kevla, mind alive, Seza, mind dead. Sleep, second point, sunk in oblivion, Kevla. Second point, sunk in light, Seza, resolved in self, Kevla. Third point, like a bucket with the rope left lying in the water in a well, like a river discharged in the ocean and its identity lost. Fourth, to be drawn by the other end of the rope. Fourth, a river cannot redirected from the ocean. Talk number 196. A visitor asked about the three methods mentioned in Ramana Gita chapter 2. Maharshi pointed out that breath retention is an aid to control of mind, that is, suppression or annihilation of thoughts. One person may practice breath control, inhalation, exhalation, and retention or retention only. Still, another type of practicing meditation or controlling the mind controls the breath and its retention automatically results. Watching the inhalation and exhalation is also breath control. These methods are only apparently threefold. They are in fact really one because they lead to the same goal. They are, however, differently adopted according to the stage of the aspirant and his antecedent predisposition or tendency. Really, there are only two methods, inquiry and devotion. One leads to the other. Devotee, seeking the eyes, there is nothing to be seen. Maharshi, because you are accustomed to identity, because you are accustomed to identify yourself with the body and sight with the eyes, therefore you say you do not see anything. What is there to be seen? Who is to see? How to see? There is only one consciousness which, manifesting as I thought, identifies itself with the body, projects itself through the eyes, and sees the objects around. The individual is limited in the waking state and expects to see something different. The evidence of his senses will be the seal of authority, but but he will not admit that the seer, the seen, and the sight are all manifestations of the same consciousness, namely I. Contemplation helps one to overcome the illusion that the self must be visual. In truth, there is nothing visual. How do you feel the I now? Do you hold a mirror before you to know your own being? The awareness is the I. Realize it, and that is the truth. Devotee, on inquiry into the origin of thoughts, there is a perception of I, but it does not satisfy me. Maharshi, quite right. The perception of I is associated with a form, maybe the body. There should be nothing associated with the pure self. The self is the unassociated pure reality in whose light the body, the ego, etc. shine. On stilling all thoughts, the pure consciousness remains over. Just on waking from sleep and before becoming aware of the world, there is the pure I hold to it without sleeping or without allowing thoughts to possess you. If that is held firm, it does not matter even though the world is seen. The seer remains unaffected by the phenomena. Talk number 204. Maharshi on self-illumination. The I concept is the ego. I illumination is the realization of the real self. It is ever shining forth as I in the intellectual seat. It is pure knowledge. Relative knowledge is only a concept. The bliss of the blissful seat is also but a concept. Unless there is the experience, however subtle it is, one cannot say, I slept happily. From his intellect, he speaks of his blissful sheath. The bliss of sleep is but a concept to the person, the same as intellect. However, the concept of experience is exceedingly subtle in sleep. Experience is not possible without simultaneous knowledge of it, that is, relative knowledge. The inherent nature of the self is bliss. Some kind of knowledge has to be admitted even in the realization of supreme bliss. It may be said to be subtler than the subtlest. The word vijnana, clear knowledge, is used both to denote the realization of the self and knowing the object. The self is wisdom. It functions in two ways. When associated with the ego, the knowledge is objective vijnana. When divested of the ego and the universal self is realized, it is also called vijnana. The word raises a mental concept. Therefore, we say that the self realized says knows by the mind, but his mind is pure. Again, we say that the vibrating mind is impure and the placid mind is pure. The pure mind is itself Brahma. Therefore, it follows that Brahma is not other than the mind of the sage. The Mundaka Upanishads say the knower of Brahma becomes the self of Brahma. Is it not ludicrous to know him and become him? They are mere words. The sage is Brahma. That is all. Mental functioning is necessary to communicate his experience. He is said to be contemplating the unbroken expanse, the created sukha, and others are also said never to swerve from such contemplation. There is a slok in Tejo Bindu Upanishad. निमिषार्धे ने तिष्ठन्ति व्यर्ति ब्रह्मैविना यथा तिष्ठन्ति ब्रह्मदा सनकादा सुखादाय. This is from Bindu Upanishad, chapter number 1, verse number 47. Such contemplation is again a mere word. How is that to be contemplated unless it is divided into the contemplator and the contemplated? When undivided, how is contemplation possible? What function can infinity have? Do we say that a river, after it discharges into the ocean, has become an ocean like river? Why should we then speak of contemplation which has become unbroken as being that of unbroken infinity? The statement must be understood in the spirit in which it is made. It signifies the merging into the infinite. Self illumination or self realization is similar to it. The self is ever shining. What does this I illumination mean then? The expression is an implied admission of mind function. The gods and the sages experience the infinite continuously and eternally without their vision being obscured at any moment. Their minds are surmised by the spectators to function, but in fact they do not. Such surmise is due to the sense of individuality in those who draw inferences. There is no mental function in the absence of individuality. Individuality and mind functions are coexistent. The one cannot remain without the other. The light of the self can be experienced only in the intellectual seat. Therefore, Vijnana of whatever kind of object or the self depends on the self being pure knowledge. Talk number 214. Mr. Eknath Rao, a frequent visitor, asked, are there not modulations in contemplation according to circumstances? Maharshi, yes, there are. At times there is illumination and then contemplation is easy. At other times contemplation is impossible even with repeated attempts. This is due to the working of the three gunas qualities in nature. Devotee, is it influenced by one's activities and circumstances? Maharshi, those cannot influence it. It is the sense of doership, kartutva, buddhi, that form the impediment. Talk number 220. Mr. B.C. Das, the physics lecturer, asked, contemplation is possible only with control of mind, and control can be accomplished only by contemplation. Is it not a vicious circle? Maharshi, yes, they are interdependent. They must go on side by side. Practice and dispassion bring about the result gradually. Dispassion is practiced to check the mind from being projected outward. Practice is to keep it turned inward. There is a struggle between control and contemplation. It is going on constantly within contemplation will in due course be successful. Devotee, how to begin? Your grace is needed for it. Maharshi, grace is always there. Dispassion cannot be acquired, nor realization of the truth, nor inherence in the self. In the absence of Guru's grace, the Master quoted, practice is necessary. It is like training a roguish bull confirmed, confined to his stall by tempting him with luscious grass and preventing him from staying. Then the master read out a stanza from Truvachakam, which is an address to the mind saying, O humming bee, namely mind, why do you take the pains of collecting tiny specks of honey from innumerable flowers? There is one from whom you can have the whole storehouse of honey by simply thinking or seeking or speaking of him. Get within and hum to him. Harimkara. Devotee, should one have a form in one's mind supplemented with reading or chanting God's name in one's meditation? Maharshi, what is mental conception except it be meditation? Devotee, should the form be supplemented by repetition of mantras or dwelling on divine attributes? Maharshi, when japa is the predominating tendency, vocal japa becomes eventually mental, which is the same as meditation. Talk number 306. There is something concrete necessary to meditate upon. How shall we meditate upon I? Mercy. We have become rooted in forms and so we require a concrete form for meditating upon. Only that which we contemplate will in the end remain over. When you contemplate, the other thoughts disappear. So long as you need to contemplate, there are other thoughts. Where are you? You contemplate because you exist. For the contemplator must contemplate. The contemplation can only be where he is. Contemplation words of all other thoughts. You should merge yourself in the source. At times we merge in the source unconsciously as in sleep, death, swoon, etc. What is contemplation? It is merging into the source consciously. happily, then the fear of death, of swoon, etc. will disappear because you are able to merge into the source consciously. Why fear death? Death cannot mean not being. Why do you love sleep but not death? Do you not think now? Are you not existing now? Did you not exist in your sleep? Even a child says that it slept well and happily. It admits its existence in sleep, unconsciously though. So consciousness is our true nature. We cannot remain unconscious. We, however, say that we were unconscious in our sleep because we refer to qualified consciousness. The world, the body, etc., are so embedded in us that this relative consciousness is taken to be the self. Does anyone say in his sleep that he is unconscious? He says so now. This is the state of relative consciousness. Therefore, he speaks of relative consciousness and not of abstract consciousness. The consciousness is beyond relative consciousness or unconsciousness. Again, reverting to Truvachagam, Sri Bhagwan said, all the four foremost saints have given out their experiences in the very first stanza, undifferentiated worship. Number two, never failing remembrance. Third, unrisen thoughts. Fourth, the ego is not the self, is all mean the same. Devotee, but this truth is not realized. Maharshi, it will be realized in due course. Till then, there is devotion, bhakti. Even for a trice, you do not leave my mind. Does he leave you any moment? It is you who allow mind to wander away. He remains away steady. When your mind is fixed, you say, he does not leave my mind even for a trice. How ridiculous. Talk number 328. Devotee, is not mental japa better than oral japa? Maharshi, oral japa consists of sounds. The sounds arise from the thoughts. For one must think before one expresses the thoughts in words. The thoughts form the mind. Therefore, mental japa is better than oral japa. Devotee, should we not contemplate the japa and repeat it orally also? Maharshi, when the japa becomes mental, where is the need for the sounds thereof? Japa becoming Japa becoming mental becomes contemplation. Dhyana, contemplation, and mental japa are the same. When thought cease to be promiscuous and one thought persists to the exclusion of all others is said to be contemplation. The object of japa or dhyana is the exclusion of several thoughts and confining oneself to one single thought. Then that thought too vanishes into its source, absolute consciousness, that is the self. The mind engages in japa and then sinks into its own source. Devotee, the mind is said to be from the brain. Maharshi, where is the brain? It is in the body. I say that the body itself is a projection of the mind. You speak of the brain when you think of the body. It is the mind which creates the body, the brain in it, and also ascertains that the brain is its seat. Devotee, Sri Bhagwan has said to one of the works that in one of the works that the japa must be traced to its source. Is it not the mind that is meant? Maharshi, all these are only the workings of the mind. Japa helps to fix the mind to a single thought. All other thoughts are first subordinated until they disappear. When it becomes mental, it is called dhyana. Dhyana is your true nature. It is, however, called dhyana because it is made with effort. Effort is necessary so long as thoughts are promiscuous. Because you are with other thoughts, you call the continuity of a single thought meditation or dhyana. If that dhyana becomes effortless, it will be found to be your real nature. Talk number 349. The three paths, the three bodies, physical, subtle, and causal, are non-self and are unreal. The self or I is quite different from them. It is due to ignorance that the sense of the self or the I notion is foisted on that which is not self, and this indeed is bondage. Since from ignorance arises bondage, from knowledge ensues liberation. To know this from the Guru is sarvana. To reject the three bodies consisting of the five seats, physical, vital, mental, gnostic, and blissful, as not I, and to extract through subtle enquiry of who am I, even as the central blade of grass is delicately drawn out from its whorl, that which is different from all the three bodies and is existent as one and universal in the heart as ahem or I, and denoted by the words tvam in the scriptural dictum. Tattvam asi, that thou art. This process of subtle enquiry is manana or deep contemplation. Talk number 528. A middle-aged Andhra man asked, is thought of God necessary for fixing one's sight or making the mind one-pointed? Maharshi, what is the practice? Devotee, to fix the look. Maharshi, what for? Devotee, to gain concentration. Mercy, the practice gives work for the eye right enough, but where is the work for the mind in the process? Devotee, what should I do for it? Maharshi, thought of God certainly. Devotee, does the practice make one ill? Maharshi, maybe, but all will be rightly adjusted of its own accord. Devotee, I practiced dhyana for 4 hours a day and fixation of sight for 2 hours. I became ill. Then others said that it was owing to my practice, so I gave up dhyana. Mercy. Matters will adjust themselves. Devotee. Is it not better that the gaze of the eye becomes fixed naturally? Mercy. What do you mean? Devotee. Is practice necessary to fix the gaze, or is it better to leave it to happen of its own accord? Mercy, what is practice? If it is not an attempt to make something natural, it will become natural after long practice. Devotee, is pranayama necessary? Mercy, yes, it is useful. I did not, devotee, I did not practice it, but should I undertake it? Mercy, everything will be all right with sufficient strength of mind. Devotee, how shall I get the strength of mind? Mercy, by pranayama. Devotee, is food regulation also necessary? Mercy, it is certainly useful. Devotee, should my contemplation be on the infinite or the limited being? What do you mean? Devotee, may I contemplate on Sri Krishna or Sri Rama alternatively? Mercy, bhavana implies khanda, that is division. So, what is ego? Ego is the false I thought, or you can say false I. What is false I? We have to understand this, very, very important point. When thoughts arise from our Atma and going outwardly, these thoughts are having negative energy. These thoughts are moving away from divinity. So, these thoughts, or you can say the basic thought that is called I thought, it is just concentrating on the worldly affairs. So, this I thought is given the name ego. See, you have to understand, ego. Ego means our mind is moving away from the Atma, leaving the divinity and entering the realm of non-self. This I thought, this basic thought is known as ego. Now, when we come out of Atma and moving into the realm of samsara, that means our body comes into the picture. We have left the Atma, now comes the play of our body. That's what we say when we identify with the body. So I identifying with the body is called ego. Very simple things. When this mind is going back to Atma, it becomes Atma. When this mind is going away from Atma and comes into the contact of a realm of samsara, this mind is known as ego. Now comes the play of our body, and we say, I, this false I, is identifying with the body. So here comes the Maya. Maya also starts acting. When this mind enters the Atma, Maya becomes non already it is non-existent, but its play is over when mind, because all these, your ego, your intellect, your vasana, these are all the modifications of mind. Mind is the basic entity, and these ego, intellect, your vasanas, your maya, all these are modifications. Names are given to mind for the specific workings of these maya, ego, or intellect. Otherwise, the basic thing is mind only. And remember, mind is originated from Atma. So all these entities, their source is Atma only. When all these entities go back to Atma, that's all. That is the state of samadhi. That is the state of super consciousness. That is the state of turiyatita, fourth state, beyond fourth state. So this is the state of samadhi. So always force your mind to move away from the samsara and take the direction towards Atma. This is your all dhyana, this is your concentration, this is all your contemplation, and after the process becomes successful, that is the state of samadhi. Very simple things, but people make these things so complex. Dear friends, make the habit of sitting in meditation, close your eyes and invite your Atma to come to your rescue. My dear friend, you will get the answer of your every query from your own Atma. Make sure you need not take the help of anybody to clarify your queries. Just sit in contemplation. So, dear friend, thank you for patience. You have listened this talk, this discussion with patience, and Thank you. Please like, comment, and share the video and subscribe my channel so that I continue giving you useful spiritual information. Thank you, my dear. Namaskar.